You will recall that in an earlier module, we downloaded COVID-19 data for the state of Florida from the Florida Department of Health website. Unfortunately, as of June 8, 2021, Florida has decided to no longer report daily cases or deaths. However, before the state decided to do so, it had made two files available for download, one for 2021 and one for 2020. And I downloaded both, and you can download them from the Canvas webpage. Now, in order for us to create a visualization showing the actual case counts for the three largest counties in the Tampa Bay region and to calculate a moving average, we have to append the two data sets. If we load them separately and then link them on, for example, county, we can only use the dates in 2020 or the dates in 2021. And we, of course, want to use all dates. So I'm starting by loading the 2020 data. And because I want to do some cleaning up, I choose Transform Data to bring up the Power Query editor. And then I'm going to choose the columns that I want to keep. I don't want object ID. I don't need age group. I'm not really interested in jurisdiction. I don't need case underscore. I don't need case 1, and I don't need chart date. Notice that the last column in this table is called object ID. So we do that, and then we can apply and close to load that data. Now, that file is large, so this is going to take a little while, as you'll see. Now, Power BI discovers that there are a few errors in the file, but we're just going to ignore those. So we type close here. And then we're going to add the 2021 data. Again, I want to transform that data. So I'm only going to keep some of the columns. I don't need age group. I don't want jurisdiction. I don't want case underscore. And I don't want case 1 or chart date. Say OK. Now, the problem with this one is where we are, is that the last column in this one is called object ID, and it was called object ID 2 in the 2020 data. And if we're going to append those data, we first have to rename it. So I right click, choose rename, and call it object ID 2. So that it has the same name as that column has in 2020. And then we do apply and close. And again, it takes a little while to get this data loaded. Again, there are some errors. I'm going to ignore those. And now when I go to the data model, I should have 2 tables in there. All right, so that looks good, and it looks as if they have all the same names, so that's good as well. Now, in order to append them, I'm going to highlight the first one and then collect transform data again to bring up the Power Query editor again. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the combine option and then say append queries. And since we have only 2 queries, 2 tables is enough. The current one has already been highlighted. So I then add the 2021 data. And eventually it will append those. I'm also going to rename this one to the 2020, 2021 COVID data, so that the table has a more meaningful name. And then we close and apply. And you see this takes a while as well. And you see it now starts adding the 2021 data. Okay, good. Now, a couple of more changes I want to make. So again, with this 2021 COVID data table highlighted, I go into transform data, because I'd like to filter on county. So I only want to keep Hillsborough, Pasco, and Pinellas. So that significantly reduces the number of rows. And then I'm also going to change the event date type, because I don't want the time in there as well. So if I go into the pull down menu, oops, wrong one. So if I download, then I can do change type, and then I'll change it to a date. And you see the number has now disappeared. And now I can close and apply it again. And that goes a little faster because the file is not quite as big as it was. All right, so now we're going to create our first visualization. And I'm going to open up the 2021 COVID data. I'll drag event date into the visualization. I'll make it a little bigger. And then I'll drag object 2 into the visualization as well. But I will change this one from sum to count. So I count the number of cases in every date. And I'll first change it into a clustered column chart. And what you see is that we get the data by year. And the reason is that just like Tableau did, when you have a date, Power BI automatically creates a hierarchy in it so that we could, in principle, drill down to quarter and month. But that's not what we want. We actually want the data for every date that we have data for. So I'm going to change this from date hierarchy, which is the one that Power BI created when we added event date, to the actual event date. And now we get something that looks very much like what we had before. And I can change that to a line chart if I want, so that I get an indication of the number of COVID cases in the Tampa Bay region, in the Pasco, Hillsborough and Pinellas combined. And you can clearly see the two waves, maybe a smaller third wave here. So that's the first visualization.